Welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show, where we get to the heart of why you overeat and how to stop. If you struggle with food and weight like I did, welcome home. Hello and welcome to the Heal Your Hunger Show. I'm so glad that you've joined me here today. It's summertime, that's right. The air is getting warmer and the days are longer and it's beautiful and a little hot on some days. I was sweating this morning on my walk pray, so I don't really like to sweat, so it felt kind of icky. But at the same time, I do love the warmer weather because it's just so beautiful and the nights are especially beautiful. So thank goodness that we have these beautiful seasons and can enjoy them. So I want to start out by just telling you all that if you're here for the first time, welcome. Really glad that you're here. Heal Your Hunger is all about helping people get to the heart of why they overeat and how to stop. And it's just, such an important conversation. It's not enough to just focus on weight loss or diets or things that are really superficial to the entire problem. And it's so important that we start talking about what it really means to be an emotional eater, because that's really the crux of the problem. I mean, it's, we know what to eat, right? I bet you can write a book on nutrition right now based on the knowledge that you've had and all the books that you've read. And, it's just not about that. We have lots of knowledge in between our ears, but does that play out in our actual daily living and eating? And usually not. The self-knowledge isn't going to fix us. So we've got to go deeper and we've got to really flesh out why it is that we eat, even when we know better, even when we know we're not supposed to, or even when we know it's going to hurt us or trigger us to binge. I mean, we do crazy things with food in spite of what we know. And so I really think it's important that we get down and dirty and talk about what that's about and what's going on for us so that we can heal it, so we can begin to really make headway and stop sabotaging ourselves and what we eat and our weight and our lives with overeating. So let's get onto the topic, which I think is so vital, and that is sabotage. Why we let others and ourselves sabotage our success, because this is probably the number one problem people have is, doing great, rolling right along, feeling good, and bam, we're up against a hurdle and we fall. And, oftentimes there are forces at play that are subconscious, both on other people's part and on our part. And, that's tough. It's tough to overcome something that we aren't even aware that we're doing. And it happens all the time. So that's what I want to get into here. Let's just start off the bat with talking about others first. Let's talk about when others in our lives sabotage our success. It happens all the time in far too frequent measure. And it's sad, isn't it? I mean, it's really sad. And I just want to say right out of the gate, it's rare that somebody actually realizes what they're doing and intentionally sabotages our efforts at healthier eating. Okay. It's usually very subconscious, and that's why it's so hard to overcome, and it's so hard to fight against, because people are well-meaning, and yet there are forces, evil forces at work within the psyche that do reach out and cause us to stumble and fall. So, and I don't mean we're victims of this by any means. In fact, I want to empower you to not fall prey to this problem, both in others and in yourself, because other people and you are doing this at breakneck speed, probably a lot more of you doing it to yourself. And I'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about others, okay? Let's talk about why other people might be threatened by our weight loss success. And usually it's people who are close to us. And, the fact is that we play a dance in our family, okay? Whether it's our newly adopted family from our marriage and children, or from our family of origin and our mother and brothers and sisters and parents and grandparents, whatever the case may be. But the people we're closest to, the people who love us the most and are there for us, oftentimes are the ones that are feeling uneasy about our weight loss. And so the reason for this is that we all play a role in our families. We're all playing a part. It's a dance, if you will, and every person has their part to play. Well, you have to realize that when you are the pathetic one, always trying to lose weight, always blowing it, always on a diet, never really making headway, people get used to that groove. They get used to you being the one who's always struggling, and it puts them in a position of being the helper. Okay, the helper, the encourager, the supporter, the cheerer on person. And, people can get used to that role. And if you take that role away from them by doing better, they don't know what role they have now. And so this is all, again, a dance that's happening at a subconscious level. We're not conscious of this. But when you start to do better in your life, when you're no longer stumbling and falling, when you're feeling better, when you're more confident, when you're more positive, when you're not complaining and whining and bitching about your weight and having to lose weight, there's a shift in the relationship, and oftentimes people aren't aware of that shift, but they are uncomfortable with it nevertheless, and they want to be the helper. They want to be in the more the role that's in more control, the stronger role, the role that's more superior in a way, and they might feel superior when you're always screwing up and they're the ones who are picking you up. Okay, that gives them a feeling of superiority, a feeling that they have it together. So when all of a sudden you're lifted up and you're doing better, they don't feel so secure in that role anymore, and they don't have that extra leg up. They don't get to feel superior. And so it might make them feel uneasy and want to get back to the status quo of them being the helper and you being the helpee, in which case they will sabotage your success. They will bring home donuts when the last thing you need are donuts. Okay, they'll make something for you that smells so yummy and delicious, and it's not on your plan of healthy eating, of clean eating. And so these are, again, self-conscious saboteurs, and they are trying to really get back to the status quo, get things back to where they're comfortable, where they have a role that's identifiable and comfortable for them. And so what you have to know is that that's what's going on for them. It's some form of insecurity, some form of feeling a little bit lost and out of sorts because the roles have changed. And what you need to do is stay on your path anyway and not get thwarted by other people's issues, okay? You have enough issues of your own. You don't need to caretake them and their issues. You don't need to fall just to make them feel comfortable. And as consummate people pleasers, that's what we as emotional eaters will tend to do, is when we sense somebody else is uncomfortable on account of our actions, we'll mold ourselves, we'll change ourselves, contort ourselves, if you will, so that they don't feel uncomfortable any longer. That's the caretaker and people pleaser in us. So resist that temptation to just say, oh, never mind, and just go back to being, a mess again, because that's what's comfortable for all of you, and that's the dance you're used to. Okay, just remember that there are other things at play as well. Like if they have been your binge buddy, we surround ourselves with a lot of binge buddies because it helps us be able to overeat without feeling guilty, right? So we find other people who are overeaters, other people who are overweight, and we go together to Friendly's or Denny's. We together stop at the ice cream store. Together we go out to eat regularly so that we can eat our favorite foods and indulge in the bread and the pasta and whatever else that we indulge in. When we have a buddy to do that with, we don't feel so bad about it. If we're going out with our skinny friend who never eats dessert, well, that's no fun if we want to eat dessert. So we're going to grab somebody who loves to eat dessert as well. This phenomenon of binge buddy, gathering is, again, subconscious. We're not consciously doing this, but it's very real for us. So if you're, not overeating all of a sudden, if you're on a new path and you're not having dessert, guess what? Your binge buddy's not going to be happy with that. And they're subtly going going to tell you something or some reason why you ought to at least have a bite, right? I mean, I was at a birthday party recently, and one of the overweight people was telling the birthday girl who also struggles with her weight, oh, you got to at least have a bite. She had said no, she's not going to have any birthday cake, or, we brought out a cake with a candle in it, and she said no, and her overweight friend said, oh, you got to at least have one bite. It's bad luck not to have one bite of your own birthday cake. And of course, I had to pipe in and say, well, it's bad luck for some of us if we do, because there's no such thing as one bite. So anyway, but the point is here that she is used to indulging, and she wants her friend to indulge because that's the culture, that's the overeating binge buddy culture. So you got to be aware of that. You may have to decline some invitations if your binge buddy friends want to go out and eat. And if it's too slippery for you, if you feel like you're going to fall right back into your old pattern, say no, respectfully decline. Say you're busy. Tell them your plate is full. Okay. You won't be lying. Your plate is full. It's full enough. And so, don't put yourself in those dangerous, slippery positions, because you don't need it. And they don't know any better. And you don't need to put yourself in a position of being tempted or resentful because they're not sensitive to your needs and the fact that you're on this new plan of eating. Which brings me to another point, which is that if you are attempting to eat in a clean way, if you are, turning over a new leaf and you're wanting to lose weight, if you're wanting to eat healthier, weight loss or not, chances are, if you announce it to people, you're going to be setting yourself up or making yourself vulnerable to saboteurs. Okay. So keep it to yourself. It doesn't need to be announced. When you announce it, it opens up a can of worms, because people are on the edge of their seat. They're watching you. They're wanting to see if you're going to do it, if you're going to follow through, or if it's another empty promise that you're making. It's just, there's too much psychology going on underneath the surface when you announce that you're, going on the straight and narrow and you're going to eat healthy. It not only gets them eyeing you and keeping track and score of what you're eating, which will make you uncomfortable, and it'll make you probably slip up even faster, but also you're striking in them a sense of competition, a sense of, perhaps they don't feel like, if you're going and getting all healthy and you're eating, they're going to feel like, gee, I should do that. But if they're not doing that, they're going to feel sort of left out. They may feel resentful that all of a sudden you're doing better. They might be a little snarky with you, again, on a subconscious level, probably not consciously if they're real friends, but there's still stuff inside of them that's being churned up that would cause them possibly to sabotage you. And so don't announce it. It's just so much easier. Just give yourself a break and don't announce it. You don't need their support. Get in a community of people who are doing the same thing. Here in our Heal Your Hunger community, we cheer each other on with the positive steps that we're making to eat clean. So get with people who will cheer you on and support you and not be threatened. If you're eating clean and you've got friends who haven't made that decision within themselves, they're going to resist, and they may try to get you back to where they're comfortable, which is with you being just like them. So you don't need to announce it. It just lays you open to all kinds of arrows in your back. Another thing is, if you have people in your life who are you've had strife with or relationship issues with, this could be a place where a little passive aggressive nature could show its ugly head. In an angry kind of way, this could be a way that they feel like they could get back at you by baking things that are hard for you to resist. Again, not conscious, but these are ugly facts about how human nature works that might not be so pretty to look at, but it's real. We're complex emotional beings. And so we've got to be aware of what's going on in people around us, not just in ourselves. So make it easy. Don't announce it. Watch out for feelings that might surface that have been buried for a while because the focus has been on you being a mess. Well, you start to do better. All of a sudden, these latent angry feelings might come out in a form of sabotage. So these are some things to look out for. The fact is, I'm sure you have good friends, you've got good family, and they do love you. It's just that, this is a tough topic for a lot of people. And there's a lot going on underneath the surface that you don't want to fall prey to in your efforts to eat in a cleaner, more loving and self-caring way. Now, the other issue is sabotaging ourselves. This is sometimes even harder to guard against because it is within us. Why do we sabotage ourselves? Why? When we're doing so well, when we're feeling so good, when it feels so good to exercise and to chop up our vegetables and eat a healthy meal and to eat only 3 meals and not be nibbling all throughout the day. Oh gosh, it feels so good. Why in God's name do we go and blow it? Why do we eat something we know we can't stop at one at? Why do we go somewhere to eat when we know there's no healthy options for us? Why do we hang out with people who will try to cajole us and convince us to eat? Why do we make that choice, that self-sabotaging choice? And the number one reason I will say is because, our problem isn't food. Our problem is what's underneath, what's driving our overeating, the pain, the fear, and the guilt that drive every emotional eater's self-destructive eating. Okay, if that stuff isn't addressed, it's going to come out in sabotage. It's if we don't deal with those underlying feelings, they will sabotage us, and we will eat over them. And so it's really important to know that this is not just about eating in a clean way, exercising, going to the gym, getting on a better track. That's all superficial stuff. What really needs to be addressed is underneath those deep lying feelings and emotions that can trip us up and cause us to sabotage ourselves. Just know that they're there whether you look at them or not, okay? We are emotional beings. Emotional eating is caused by a need to deter or deflect emotions, stuff emotions. And so don't ever be fooled that just because you're so focused on eating right and buying the right foods at the grocery store and getting on a better track, don't think that that's the be all and end all, because it's not. That's only a beginning. You've got to go deeper. And people who don't go deeper will overeat again. You will break out in a binge. You will be blindsided by food. I promise you, you will. I promise you. I will guarantee it. If you're an emotional eater, the time and place will come when you will have no ability to say no to ooey gooey chewy foods if you have not done deeper emotional work. And so that's the number one reason why we self-sabotage, is because, we think it's easy. We think we're doing well. We think we've got it licked. And then boom, like a tidal wave, we get bowled over by a host of emotions that we didn't know were there because we were hoping they weren't. We were hoping they weren't because we were deluding ourselves that it's just as easy as buying the right foods and making the right meals for ourselves. And it's not. This has to be a 3-pronged approach: physical, mental, and emotional, 4-pronged, spiritual as well. So, as much as we want to make it easy, like it's only a 1-pronged approach, it's not. It's never just physical. Another reason why we self-sabotage is because when we are doing well, we're in unfamiliar territory. I mean, we don't even know what that looks and feels like. So we are experiencing very uncomfortable feelings. We're experiencing feelings often for the first time. We're feeling hunger sometimes for the first time in years. And that is just new to us. And we don't know how to handle it. We don't even have the tools or the language to deal with that. And so that's a really important thing to keep your eye out for is when you start feeling uncomfortable, when you have that rumble of emotions inside and they're so uncomfortable. And, in your head, there's a little thought of, wow, if I were eating, I wouldn't have to deal with all of this. And so you have to make a choice. If you want to lose weight, if you want to get on a better eating path, guess what? You're going to have to get uncomfortable with some feelings. You're going to have to learn that those feelings, are just feelings. They do pass, but you're going to have to embrace feeling a little bit of uncomfortable at first. Okay. And when you do, you realize you're not going to die. It's not that big a deal. They pass. I mean, hunger feelings pass. You can feel so hungry. And if you don't eat, if you don't run and eat, that hunger can pass to where you don't feel so hungry. By the time you eat, it's like you're ready to eat, but you're not starving. I find in the middle of the day, sometimes I can feel starving, but I'm not, but it just feels that way in the moment. If I placate those feelings with food every single time I feel them, I'm never going to not overeat. So I have to go through some uncomfortable feelings. But just remember, just like your friends sometimes want to get back to the status quo, you will want to get back to the status quo as well. So you just have to learn how to be a little bit uncomfortable with new feelings, new hunger pangs, and just realize that you can live through that. And then that becomes your new normal. Okay, for right now, it's strange and different, and you want to get back to what's normal for you, which is overeating and stuffing. But if you just go through those uncomfortable feelings, you'll get to the point where not overeating and not stuffing is your new normal, and it'll get much easier. Another reason why we self-sabotage is so much negative self-talk. I mean, our negatively racing minds are they're so mean. They're so mean. And so oftentimes, what goes on between our ears can really get the best of us. And I totally get that. And one of the best things you can do is learn how to meditate, and I teach that in my 7 Simple Steps program. But meditation, prayer, reading spiritual literature, anything that can get you centered and present and out of the thoughts between your ears is going to help you, because we can be so mean to ourselves. I mean, so mean. You don't deserve this. What are you doing? It's never going to last. You're never going to make any headway. You might as well go ahead and eat. You haven't lost very much weight. What's the point? I mean, on and on and on ad nauseum. And, you need a respite from that brain of yours. You need a respite. And one of the best things you can do is give it a rest with meditation. So I highly recommend that. But also you can write as well. I find writing to be so helpful. If you're having an attack in your mind, you can write all those crappy, shitty thoughts down and get them on paper so they're not ruling your mind. When I first started doing art a little over a year ago, it was always a dream of mine, but I had a lot of low self-esteem around art. I mean, I majored in art history, but I didn't do a lot of practical art because I just didn't think I was any good. And I had friends who were artists, like true artists. And so I just thought, that's not me. Well, I took some art courses and my head was so noisy and it barraged me with negativity. I mean, it was like going to war. My head was like, what are you doing? You're not an artist. Who are you kidding? You're an imposter. This isn't your domain. You might as well quit now. I mean, it was really mean because I was stepping out and I was doing something uncomfortable. This is something I dreamed of doing and I was actually doing it. I was walking the path, taking the courses, doing my paintings, setting up a studio in my home, all these amazingly positive things. And my psyche was like, whoa, what's happening? This terrible, mean darkness inside of me was like, this is not who Tricia is. Like, Tricia's a non-artist because that's what she's been telling herself for all these years. So let's get back to that state where she quits and becomes a non-artist again. So I had that time of real battle with my head where my head was like, this is uncomfortable. Let's go back to the way it was. And it's all fear. It's fear. The bottom line is it's fear. And I just had to realize that I'm going to walk through this and do it in spite of what my head says. And this is what you need to do with regard to your new way of living, is that no matter how many negative thoughts you hear, you say, thanks for sharing, but I'm doing this anyway. And you keep talking back to it and you keep taking this path no matter what your head says about it, and it will shut up. Because over time, my head left me alone and I became an artist. I affirmed that I was an artist, even though part of me was screaming, "You're not an artist." I just affirmed, yes, I am. If I want to do art and I am doing art, guess what? I'm an artist. And so over time, my head just shut up, and it will for you too. If you say, guess what? This is my new way of living. I'm committed to it. You can't thwart me from this. Okay. And you just talk right back to it. Like, thanks for sharing. I'm doing this anyway. Thank you very much. So important. Another reason why we self-sabotage is because we don't change the stress level in our lives. You see, so much of our eating is stress eating. And so we've got to lessen our stress if we're lessening the food we're eating. It's an equation. This amount of stress equals this amount of food. And that's just the bottom line. It's that simple. You want to cut down the amount of food you eat so that you can, be healthier. Guess what? You're going to have to cut down the amount of stress you're living in as well. So many people make the mistake of removing the food, but not removing the stress. And it's just, it's not going to work. It's an equation that can never be. Okay. So you've got to change your lifestyle and your stress level, or else you won't be able to sustain a healthy way of living. So important. Another reason for self-sabotage is fear of weight loss. Food is serving a purpose for us. Weight is serving a purpose for us. So, so much of the time, the weight we're carrying is a protective shield in our minds. This is a way we're going to protect ourselves. If we've been sexually abused in the past, we're thinking subconsciously, if I have this weight around me, nobody's going to mess with me and I'll be safe and protected. Well, we have to change that programming. Otherwise, being thinner means danger for us. And it always will, unless we do this deeper work to really get rid of those old ideas about hanging on to weight. And that has to be done in your own consciousness, that work. This is the kind of work we do in the 7 Simple Steps to End Emotional Eating Now program. We get into these old ideas so we can root them out and no longer have to sabotage our success on account of it. But just know, fear of losing weight is a big reason why 98% of all diets fail. People can't handle being in a thin body. They think they want to be thin, but they don't know they can't handle being thin emotionally and all that shows up when they are thin. And the last thing is ego. Oh my goodness. If you've read my book, you'll know that ego is not your amigo. And I go into this in great detail, but it's a crazy thing when we've been overweight for so long. We feel really bad about ourselves. It's just it sucks to be fat. I mean, it just does. In this culture, it really sucks. And so, we kind of get down on ourselves. We get down on ourselves. Other people get down on us. A lot of people, if we're severely overweight, they sneer at us. They're mean to us. We're second-class citizens. People are prejudiced against us. And so it's a real ride to be overweight. It's really, really, really saps our self-esteem. And so when we get thinner, when we lose weight, it's like we're adopting this body that we don't recognize, and also it's so uncomfortable for us that we blow up. Our egos blow up like a big balloon, and we you've often heard it said that people with who are egomaniacs have an inferiority complex. Well, it's really true. When we feel so bad about ourselves, and then you give us a little success with weight loss, all of a sudden we're big shots. All of a sudden we're hot. We might wear sexy clothes. We might be really putting it on. And it's all it is compensation for having felt so bad about ourselves, having felt so ugly for so long. And so it's just bouncing off the two extremes. Eventually we'll find our way into the middle. And so it won't be such an extreme for us. But initially, that ego, the way we act, can make us feel so guilty that we put the weight back on just to stop it, just to stop being so egotistical, looking at ourselves in the mirror, being all about how we look, new clothes. I've done it. Okay, so I'm talking totally from personal experience, wanting to catch men's attention or women's attention. And so it's just, it can kill us. That ego can really kill us. And so we have to be diligent and recognize when we have those self-inflating thoughts that truthfully isn't who we are. I mean, that's not who we are. We're not these big shots. I mean, we've never felt that way. We've felt like little shots our whole life, but, we give us a little success and we can turn into this, egomaniac very quickly. And so we have to watch for that and not get carried away with how we look and who we can appeal to with our looks. Because that sense of real superficiality is going to bite us in the butt in no time, and we'll end up just stuffing our faces just to stop the noise, just to stop the madness and the way of living that's really not who we are. We're sweet people, we're good people, but that ego can get ugly fast. So just beware of that. If you have some weight loss success, beware of what's happening in the ego realm, because it can really cause you to say on a subconscious level, okay, let's shut this down fast. And we'll do that. Again, 98% of all diets fail because this is what's happening underneath. So you can see with all these different things I've talked about, it's not so simple. There's no easy answer. It's really about a multitude of, forces at work under the surface in our subconscious that we need to be hip to. Okay. And so I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're, accessing this information, because we need all the tools we can get in order to have real lasting success with healthy eating and weight loss, if that's your goal. So really important to know that it's not a cut and dried situation, and that you can turn it around where you don't sabotage yourself. I mean, this can absolutely turn itself around, but you've got to start being aware of what's going on inside, in your heart, with your emotions, and start addressing these things through the many self-care success secrets I offer in my book and in my program. I literally walk you through how to begin to turn these things around so you can have success. So thanks so much. I hope this has been helpful to you. Just know that you deserve the best possible care and treatment you can get and that you can give yourself. And so, take this information to heart. Be kind to the people around you. They know not what they do if they're sabotaging. Just recognize what's going on and politely decline any food that they're offering you from their own, subconscious needs for you to eat. They're not bad people. They love you very much. They just have stuff going on just like we do. So anyway, thanks so much for tuning in. I'm so glad that you joined me here. And if you want more information, definitely check out healyourhunger.com and join us on our wonderful program, 7 Simple Steps to End Emotional Eating Now. It's a great journey. People are getting amazing results from it, and so can you. So thanks a lot. Take good care, and I'll talk to you later.
If you enjoyed this show and want to get free support, insider health info, exclusive invites to events, and more, visit healyourhunger.com.